Hi everybody, I'm Shibid. Welcome back for another flip through of latest journal. I'm going to actually just put this journal aside while I deal with giveaway stuff. So you may remember that I mentioned I'll try and get organised to do a little giveaway. So ta-da, that's what's happened. So because I haven't done one yet, I decided I would just do 3, and so I've done like a set of 3 of the same thing. So 3 little charms. There's a little tea bag, a little cottage, and one of these botanical ones with a tiny specimen. So there's that. There's a couple of button cards, so actually you're going to be seeing too many. You're going to be seeing 6 of these. So there's like a sample card and then a little pretty button card for each set. There's 3 of these in each set, and then I've done some little envelopes of the sort of things that you've seen me do before. So as you can see, 3 of each thing, but all slightly different. So one of these little wallets with a hand-carved stamp, and inside some writing space. Then I've done one of these little letterbox pockets. You can see actually that I've been watching Ava this week and her wonderful, amazing what are they called, lap book ideas. So thank you, Ava, and hello to you if you watch. So I really like this idea of the little slot, so it looks like that when you take out the tag, and a little ribbon there. So they're all like that, more or less, just with different papers and some dyed tracing paper on the backs, like so and like so. So that's that one. And then there's one of these little cross stitch cross stitch tags for you to do yourself. There is a woodland style envelope like that, and one of these nature ones, all with nice stitching. So that's those, and then a marine style one like this with the dyed tracing paper, and a library card. So that's what that is. If you would like to take part, all I would like you to do is put a big old X in the comments, so you don't have to leave a comment. Just put an X and I will enter you. Now what I'm going to do is I'm not going to tag giveaway on this video, because I would like it to go to people who watch regularly and who are actually interested in paper crafts, so not somebody who's just trawling around looking for giveaways. So that's what I'm going to do. So put an X. If you want to just take it a step further, what I was thinking would be an interesting idea is if you just wanted to put 1 word or 2 words of a theme that you would like to see in junk journaling. I don't know if this is something that I will follow through on, but it was just kind of out of interest, because I know what interests me, and sometimes I think, well, you know, should I take things in a different direction? I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud, really. So if you wanted to put just like, I don't know, snow or seaside, whatever, you know, that's kind of a bit vague, but if there's any themes that you're thinking, oh, it would be really nice to see a journal, you know, I just thought it would be interesting to see what people are thinking. So if you wanted to do that, fine. If you don't, just put an X would be wonderful. and so I guess I'll probably announce that on the next time that I do a journal video. So okay, back to what we're here for. So sewing journal, and working on this book, I am reminded again of the Tailor of Gloucester. I've only done one sewing journal before, and that lady had requested a Beatrix Potter kind of a theme with it, so I went with the Tailor of Gloucester. You might remember. Now for this one, I came across a really beautiful idea on Pinterest, which led me to make this kind of ribbon thing. If you wanted to look up the photograph, it's, if you, let me see, if you were to just type in Linda Jo's Obsessions Snippet Roll, that's what the title of the photo is, so you'll find it easily. And so the lady who posted the photograph actually is Linda Jo from this blogspot. But the lady who made the roll, I don't know if they're like part of a group or something. I didn't really have time to look into it properly, but I just saw this photo. The lady who made it is Carol with an E, Brungar, and she is kiwicarol.blogspot.co.uk. So when I have more time, I'm going to look into that properly. But she had made this really beautiful snippet roll, as she calls it, and as you can see, it is snippets in a roll. Who knew? So I've just sewed very, very random pieces together like so, and what I thought would be such a nice idea for people who do happy mails and have pen pals, to include something like this, because you know, you can use tiny little scraps. You don't have to give somebody a whole piece of your wonderful antique lace. You can just cut off little snippets, and I'll show you the back. So actually it is slightly different to the way Carol had done it. With hers, she had done like a roll like this, and then over the top some sheer fabric, and over the top of that some black machine embroidery, something like this. I haven't quite done it like that because I'm not sure what I want to use this piece for, but on the back it's actually very similar to her front. So I've used the sheer fabric, just like about an inch wide, maybe a bit wider, just in as a bottom layer to sew my snippets to, and then I've just layered a few layers on top of that where I wanted. So that's quite an easy way to do it if you're wanting to do that. Just start with your length of fabric or sheer fabric and just sew down the middle or down each side, adding bits to fill in the spaces, so that these are the bits to start off with that are sticking out the edges at the back here, and then you can layer your smaller pieces over the top. And I thought that was a really sweet thing to, you know, you could even wrap a package in it, couldn't you, if you were careful with the papers. Just to do like a fabric one, you could style it different styles, you know, you could do more cutesy with ginghams and things like that. So a little idea for you, and thank you to Carol for that lovely idea. And so I ended up, I saw that photograph and I ended up actually using that idea again for the cover of this book, and I'm really pleased with how it turned out. So as you can see, this time I have embroidered over it, but I wanted to overlap onto the actual cover, so I left that till last, and I think it's come out nice. And so this is also why I was reminded of the Tailor of Gloucester again, because in the story he cuts out his cloth according to how much cloth he has, and yeah, if that makes sense. And he has tiny little scraps left over that he calls tippets for mice, and he grumbles about it because there's not enough to do anything with. So if he had looked at Pinterest, you know, he might have had an idea of how to use these little scraps. And also this I thought was a really sweet idea. This is something I've been watching Viv at Hen's Teeth. She uses sometimes these old, you know how you get the old table linens where you can buy a cloth with a pattern already printed and then you embroider over. So that's what these little blue flowers are, and I really love the way she uses these. Worth having a look. And so I've used the same linen as in my last book, and on the back a little embroidery that I have done myself, and that's the cover. So let's go inside. Actually, I might show you the charms now. So just kind of sewing related, little crystal bead, some like tabs and things sticking out. I've used some tape measures, there's a bronze hanger, little button, vintage button. I'm going to come back to this one at the end because I think that might be my favourite part of the book. And I realise I didn't quite get the focusing very good on the last video, so I apologise for that. I think overall the setup was better, but I just need to be careful not to get too close to the camera. It's actually a bit difficult to see the camera from where I'm sitting, but let's get on with it anyway. So it's a little quote here. And this lady has had a few needle books from me in the past. She's one of my regular ladies, the Baker Street irregulars I call them. And so she requested a needle book element in the journal, so I've done a little fabric section here, and the cherry coloured silk features again, if you remember that from last time. And you'll all be pleased to know, guys, that my cherry coloured silk has turned up. It is no longer lost, and I'm very relieved. So along those lines there's a little silk cord charm with a red bead. There's some little stalk scissors here which are secure with this is a very simple idea. You just make sure that the thread comes through in between the two handles, and that's you know, they're not going to fall out like that. Some little beaded pins, and in here is a place for your needles with a popper and spare buttons. On the back, a scissor charm, some couple of bits of ephemera in there, button card, and that's that. I've done a couple of books like this in the past. So you probably find some photographs kind of way back in my Instagram, like ages ago. They're slightly different, but if you wanted ideas, that's that. Little needle packet here, nice big pockets. That's your letter from the bookmaker, and of course the Tailor of Gloucester. So there's a few of pictures from that story. Some more snippets. This the lady who ordered this book is the same lady who sent me this wonderful tailor's ledger from the 60s, I think it was, from a Scottish tweed company, tailoring company, and some of the pages have these original notes, and some of the pages also have some swatches from some of the cloths that they were using. 2 little notebooks here, some collaging, tracing paper printed over with some graph lines, and I've just enlarged some of these needle packet graphics and used them, so that's just stuck on the front of this envelope. More the dog's having a weird dream. I don't know if you can hear her on the camera, but she's making strange noises in her sleep. Stitching all around the envelope, some more cherry coloured silk here. Some stitching on pages and some more notes on this ledger. And on this side, what I've done, on the previous video, the other sewing book that I did, Catherine is the lady who sent me the ledger, and she I know that some of you really enjoy reading Catherine's comments. She's really funny, and she often makes up little stories and things that go with the videos on YouTube, and she's really sweet. She said something in that last video about Peter Rabbit's a swatch from his coat, so that's what I've included. I used a page without the swatches on the ledger and used our own, so there's a little quote from Benjamin Bunny. Is that focusing? Hope so. So that's that. Some old receipt graphics. I've used this one because it's dolls and toys. This is a postcard from the Spinners and Weavers Guild in Britain. Catherine mentioned that the reason she wanted a sewing journal was to remind her of her grandmother, who was a seamstress, and she wanted to use the book to record her memories of her grandmother, which I thought was such a lovely idea. And so why am I telling you this? Oh yes, the dolls. She said her grandmother used to make all the dolls' clothes for them and dresses, so there's a couple of little dolly references too. I've aged some tape measure and cut little snips for collages and page tabs and such. These are really pretty. I've forgotten to remind myself again. Some of the Etsy shops that I've used I will link below, so that you have the names, which is what these really pretty dressmakers form. So some tags. So this is tracing paper, and this is a nice big pocket, the Tansy Fairy. So on the back is the lovely poem where she talks about what tansy used to be made of, and of course she's sewing the buttons on this one, so that's why I picked this one. And also it's she doesn't mention it here, but you can use tansy for dye, so I actually keep looking out for it, but I haven't found it yet. So that's one that I want to try for dyeing cloth. This is Mary Frances, a little vintage sewing book for children. And this of course is the Tailor of Gloucester again, where the mice have to leave a little note to say that they've run out of twist. These are Etsy also, some really pretty little button cards, and I've just made these into journaling cards. So lots of these collages with different snips and laces. Oh, I forgot to mention, a lot of the laces that I've used, some of these are really pretty antique laces, and I have to thank Liv for these, and also Lydia. Both ladies have sent me quite a lot of these lovely fabrics and laces and doilies, so thank you both very, very much for those. Where are we in frame? Okay, so here's another dressmaker's form that I've enlarged like so. Some little fabric stamped scraps. That's Mary Frances again. And just a little collage. Catherine mentioned to me, she said, I hope it's not boring for you to do another sewing book, which she's really sweet. No, it's not boring at all. In fact, my mother was a seamstress also, so that was actually a really nice memory for me of her little pocket. So yes, I did enjoy it because it made me think of her too, so that was nice. I love this idea of the printing on tracing paper. So this graphic was another of the Etsy ones that I will link, and the idea of course comes from Tracy Fox, the wonderful Tracy Fox. Some vintage sewing book pages. On this side I put a little envelope and then covered the whole thing in sewing paper and just cut out the little envelope carefully with a knife to make a little pocket, and some ledger stamps over the top. And then another Etsy one, these are little yarn holder, yarn winder things that you can make stick on card. So I've just enlarged this to make a little kind of a page, and put some lace around the front so that it's like a wound, you know, used it like that, and some little dolly dressing up graphics, very sweet. So I've just made that into a pocket there. Some more snips. Some layers of tracing paper with hand stitching and some skeleton leaves. And the library card is Little Women. These are cotton spool things, the ends that I've enlarged again and made into a little acetate pocket with some pressed flowers. And one thing to mention, if you want to use this idea, what you need to remember is to possibly change where you put your holes for your binding, because you want to catch at least in one place, and catch in two if you can, because otherwise it's going to slide up and down and kind of be annoying. So you want it to be strong as possible. So for that, and then also for this one, made sure that it was caught in the middle here. So this vintage book page, so I've just covered this one because I didn't particularly like that picture, and I've just put this floating envelope here. And I've used a lot of these memorandum pages goes very well with the sewing theme. He does have a bit of sewing on there, but also uses a lot of graph papers, which looks really good with the sewing themes, and lots of kind of graphs with numbers, which looks nice. So another needle packet graphic on the front. Some stamps, and most of these little ones are from the TheGraphicsFairy. A little envelope here. This is a book that my mother and I used to work from when I was very little. An old vintage, so you can see all the different patterns that you would have to trace out. And I've just made that into an envelope with a little scrap from a tablecloth for the postage stamp, which look quite sweet. Some tape measures. Some of these are ribbons and fabrics, and some of the actual tape measure. What I decided, I had a really good idea of putting bits of tape measure in the washing machine, because I thought that would kind of distress it really well, and they because it's actually brand new. You know, they're not vintage, they're new tape measures, these two. But they actually came out of the washing machine sparkling new and absolutely fine, nothing at all, not one scratch on them. So in the end I just sanded and scratched up the edges a little bit and used some distress ink, which worked fine. To a tracing paper pocket, so you can use that as a writing surface if you wanted. And some little kind of fabric swatch cards, and so this is more of that vintage book. Another little dress form in a tag, some stitching with a little button envelope that I've made with a magnet, so it'll just stick on there. This was another Etsy that I've forgotten the name of. Nice little vintage illustration of a young girl spinning. And this one I was very pleased to find this week. This is some table linen, as you can see, with this very, very pretty design. I was really pleased to find this, and I thought it would be perfect for this book. Isn't that lovely how she's done those daisies? I'm assuming it's a she. Clever lady. So that is, so I just wanted to include that. I haven't made it into a pocket, but I have just put some writing areas on the back with some needlework books and things, pages. It's a little winter pansy specimen. And some more collaging, some more journaling cards, Taylor of Gloucester again. This is a button card printed on tracing paper, and more ideas from Ava with little pocket tabs. Looks really sweet, so I've just put 3 different tags in there. 1, 2, 3. And then I think all of these are different memorandum papers. So you can see even the ones that are not actually sewing look quite good. This is probably one of my favourite packs, I think. And a little ribbon here. This is a very, very full book. Sorry, I think I was not in frame there. tracing paper for a little writing area, again with that vintage book, some collages, and this I have to credit Angie Bunner for her wonderful sewing creations. Angie, who she doesn't, as far as I know, have her own channel, but if you search her name in YouTube, it will come up with quite a few videos that showcase her work. Really beautiful ideas. So I've just done a little trifold with a quote and one of Angie's little sewing paper hearts, and so again just used a little scrap of the ledger. And so for these, just several layers of sewing paper cut in an oblong, sew them round the edge together and then glue them onto a long piece of card that's measured out, and that's basically it. I've added a magnet just to close it properly, and then just think of 3 things that you want to include. So I think they're really sweet. And that's tucked in there. Okay, so my favourite part of the book. So excuse my tummy rumbling as well. I need to make sure that this is in focus this time. Let me stand up. There we go. So pause to read. So of course you probably recognise that that's another Beatrix Potter story. When we were talking about Peter Rabbit's watches and things, Tom Kitten also came up, and the story of Tom Kitten was that naughty Tom and his sisters were sent out into the garden while their mother got ready for visitors. So she puts their finest clothes on, and Tom, who's got too fat for his jacket, is not careful, and he ends up popping off his little buttons, and they get lost in the garden. So if you can see, there's little snags of blue cloth on the end of that button where it's got pulled off. So that's that part. Some nice lace flower trim and a little vintage button card there. Because this book is so lumpy bumpy, and it has the fabric also and the scissors in there and everything, I thought it was probably going to be a bit difficult to write in, and because I know Catherine wants to use it for writing, I've just included a very simple writing board, so you can just slip that in between pages to give you a surface, or take it out if you don't want it in there. So a very thick, chunky, lovely book. I hope that you do love it, Catherine, and I'm sure it will become beautiful with your lovely memories in there. Sorry, I'm being distracted. Okay, so I think that is that. I think that I've mentioned everything I want to, so don't forget about the giveaway. Put an X if you would like to be entered, and just put 1 or 2 words about a theme that you would like to see or would be interested in, just out of interest. So thank you everybody, thank you for your lovely support, and have a great week until I see you again. See you soon. Bye.